In 2006, a work of public art was built on the promenade of Rhyl. Its name, Moments in Time. It features old photographs printed onto tiles, like the ghosts of long-lost holidays, the whispers of joyful things now past, fading like an old dream. In some ways, this strange sculpture is like the town itself is asking to be remembered, for its beautiful and sorrowful story to be told.
Let's take a walk along the streets of Rhyl, into the past of the British seaside holiday, and towards its uncertain future.
I do like the seaside street. I do like the from where the brass band plays and the young from.
This is Splash Point, at the far end of Rhyl Promenade, and somewhere out there, amid the pounding foam of the ocean, petrified tree stumps may be found at low tide. They may have died around the end of the last ice age, some 10,000 years ago, and fragments of stone axe heads, deer antler, and a curious antler mattock have also been found near to them. These hint at a time when the coast of Wales was blanketed in dense woodlands, when our ancestors passed through, foraging and hunting, and disappearing into the folds of time without a trace. Many stories exist of such places, amongst them the famous Welsh tale of Cantry Gwaelod, the Welsh Atlantis, lost beneath the waves near to the settlement of Borth, another place where those curious tree stumps may sometimes be found, rising from the sands. But if a prehistoric settlement did exist at Rhyl, it is unremembered and without a name. In fact, nobody knows for certain how this area came to be named in the first place. After all, Rhyl is an unusual name, first recorded in the 13th century, with various corruptions and variations, likely due to the difficulty in translating it into English. Rhyl, spoken with a voiceless alveolar trill, uncommon in the English tongue. But what does it all mean? Some have suggested it referred to a road, Rhyl, but this name existed before any roads passed through the area. Others have claimed it to mean a settlement on a hill, but the area is flat, with no notable hills to bring about such a name. And so its origins have puzzled philologists and scholars for many decades. And yet, could not this hill represent something man-made? An early settlement of which was lost by some cataclysmic flooding, just like those stories of the Welsh Atlantis. After all, 17th century documents exist which call the town Tuin Rhyl, which may refer to a land where brine flows over a salt marsh, or in other words, seawater flooding the land. We'll probably never know the truth. And yet if Rhyl's name did refer to some old settlement, some once living world now all but forgotten, so that even its very name is lost in time, it seems rather like a foreshadowing of the things to come. The oldest building in Rhyl was known simply as Tŷ Rhyl, built in 1672 and mentioned by Welsh geographer Edward Lywyd. It was to be the only house of any importance in the town until the Victorians arrived nearly 200 years later. The remainder of the area home merely to rabbits, living out their lives amongst the remains of sleepy medieval farmsteads. A land of slow and drowsy days, about to be rudely awakened by the coming Victorian taste for the seaside, where no coastal area was left untouched. In Rhyl, it began simply as 2 hotels. The first of them, known as the Royal, opening in 1825, now the site of the popular Piazza restaurant. These hotels were shortly followed by a steam packet service from Liverpool in 1829, bringing with it the first seaside holidaymakers to this once silent beach of the North Wales coast. Their arrival signalling a shift in the fortunes and fashions of the place, the coming of something special and strange, the birth of Rhyl as a seaside resort. The development of Rhyl was rapid, and for North Wales, breathtaking in scope, with the Chester to Holyhead Railway opening in 1848, bringing visitors from Manchester, Liverpool, and even as far away as London, all descending upon the ancient Welsh coast like explorers in some uncharted kingdom, the language and history of this proud nation seeming to them almost as exotic and strange as some far-flung corner of the known world. But they were not there purely for cultural enrichment. Their hearts were set on something different, and perhaps something more easily obtained and remembered. The pursuit of leisure. We were going on holiday. Like many other resorts springing into life around this period of time, Rhyl soon constructed a wooden pier, opening in 1867 and designed by Scottish engineer James Brumleys. It was the first pleasure pier in North Wales, and opened to crowds of holidaymakers from all over the country, who witnessed a nearby steamboat letting off its cannons at regular intervals as a celebration, almost like the town was roaring into being, shaking off the last remnants of its past, and sending whatever remained of the rabbits running for the hills. Rhyl Victoria Pier, as it was known, was soon to become the central point of this new holiday phenomena, so popular that in 1883 it was further extended at a cost of £2,500, over $300,000 today, and by 1891 the Grand Pavilion was opened, a marvellous building that housed the largest organ anywhere in the world, the Grand Jubilee. It was a monster with over 3,000 pipes and a weight of 25 tons, and must have been something of a real wonder to behold. And in fact, if you ever wanted to understand what made those Victorian tourists tick, look no further than this. Here the summer air enclosed you in a warm embrace. Chimneys did not blot out the sky, nor did mills deafen the song of the birds. You could breathe freely, the glimmer of the sea hinting at the dreams laying dormant in your heart, and there, in that pier-end wonderland, the organ plays, its melody rousing within you a kind of rapture, a sense of having witnessed some great and wonderful thing, that all of our industrious efforts have paid off and created something of true magic, meaning, and joy. But not all was well with the pier at Rhyl. In fact, it was struck by almost constant disaster, as if somehow it was all never meant to be. During its construction, rough seas washed away the first part of the structure, and later in 1883 a schooner crashed into the pier, causing further damage, something that would later happen again in 1891, where a vessel called Fawn collided with it, resulting in the rescue of 50 passengers and causing even more damage to the pier. And this was not all. In 1897, Liverpool-born diver Tommy Burns, known as the champion athlete of the world, was killed after jumping 100 feet from the pier into the sea, watched by over 3,000 spectators. Thought to be intoxicated by alcohol, he twisted awkwardly and landed heavily on his back. Was rescued from the sea, but soon after was declared dead. Of particular note, this photograph was taken of Tommy during his fatal dive from Rhyl Pier, mere moments before his death. It reminds me of those photos from the Moments in Time wall, snapshots crying out to be remembered, as if the town itself is speaking to us, reminding us to listen well to that song of life, for its melody is short, and once through, can be heard no more. Of course, that seizing the day, and living each moment of it to the full, was, and in many ways still is, the key to the success of a seaside resort, and Rhyl knew it. In 1895, Marine Lake was constructed in the town, opening on Queen Victoria's birthday, and quickly becoming the place to be for all interested in rowing, yachting, and bathing. This decade also saw the construction of Marine Lake Funfair, an amusement park situated around the lake, bringing in thousands of visitors from all over the country. This park would, as time marched onwards, become a central point in the continued growth of Rhyl, as well as its eventual decline. For the moment, though, the Victorian visitor had everything they wanted, with the Queen's Palace opening in 1902 and housing a multitude of seaside delights, amongst them a theatre, roof gardens, a small zoo, and a large glass dome with views over to Snowdonia. That was until the palace caught fire in 1907 and the glass dome collapsed, destroying the ballroom. Rhyl, it seems, was plagued by setbacks from its very beginning. For the holidaymaker, though, it hardly mattered. Rhyl might have been compared with big brothers like Blackpool, but unlike Blackpool, here you could see the Welsh mountains rising before you, take excursions to ruined castles and historic sites, and bask in a glorious beach, still today one of the very best in Wales. The promenade behind you lined with souvenir stalls, offering trinkets to cement your holiday forever in your memory. As the seaside holiday boom continued into the 20th century, the London, Midland and Scottish Railway introduced a theme and slogan to promote this Welsh resort: Sunny Rhyl, a phrase which soon became synonymous with the town as a whole, even leading some to believe that this was the true origin of its mysterious name, Tír Rhyl, the House of Sunshine. This is almost certainly a type of folk legend, but even so, it shows that Rhyl was a name now strongly associated with a sunny holiday for both Welsh and English speakers alike. In fact, the amusement park had become so popular that in 1954 it was moved to a new location along the west end of the promenade, allowing for further and rapid expansion, now being renamed as Ocean Beach. All of the latest rides found a home here, the very idea of visiting the park making children nauseous with growing excitement. And for those less enthralled by the fun of the fair, there was always the Floral Hall, opening in 1959 and allowing visitors to enter a wonderland of flora, fauna and wildlife under a heated roof, with free-flying birds and beautiful gardens, creating the sensation of entering a tropical world in the middle of Wales. It was visited by millions of people, becoming one of the most popular attractions anywhere in Wales, the true spirit of the seaside holiday. Here, you could go on the beach, take a ride on the ever-popular Marine Lake Railway, and venture into town for a bustling and modern shopping experience, helped in part by the Queen's Market, where that old glass dome palace once stood, now allowing for stallholders to tempt you with everything from a bucket and spade to some modern iteration of the year's current fashion. Rhyl was holiday town, by now described as the playground of North Wales, and likened as a uniquely Welsh version of its bigger brothers on the English coast. After all, it now had the whole lineup, including promenade arcades ushered in by local businessmen like Les Harker, his empire starting with simple seaside bingo, before moving on to the corner cafe and arcade buildings, all of which are still around today. Rhyl didn't forget its beautifully Welsh location either, with 1970 seeing the launch of the Penthrabac model village, taking visitors into a Lilliput version of famous landmarks from all around the lovely land of Wales. Could those early struggles be finally over, ushering in a new and truly sunny future for Rhyl? It might have literally seemed like that, as the old pier was finally demolished in 1973, the final structure being just over 300 feet in length, such was the impact of storm damage over the years. Those early days of the world's largest organ and the doom-shrouded death of the diver were over, flattened, and soon to be forgotten entirely, as development showed no signs of slowing down in the town, despite the arrival of cheap air flights giving many resorts their first reasons to worry. In 1980, the Rhyl Sun Centre was first opened to the public, and at the time it was the largest indoor pool of its kind anywhere in the UK, featuring water slides, a bar, a monorail ride, and even the first indoor surfing pool in Europe. It was opened by It's a Knockout presenter Stuart Hall, and it soon became the busiest and most exciting attraction that Rhyl had ever known, seeing millions of visitors descending on the town to experience this paradise of waves and wonder. And to think, it almost never happened. The idea of it, an entertainment complex all under one roof, was met with scepticism and distrust by the council, with nobody wanting to take responsibility if this new development, costing over £4 million, didn't work out. But work out it did. And in fact, it quickly became one of the biggest success stories in the history of Rhyl. And perhaps more importantly, it was the central point of holiday memory making for millions, acting as a kind of dreamscape with its myriad colours, scents and sensations. It was like a kind of vision made real, the very thing you imagined a holiday to be, and for that reason alone, it was a very special place. One seen always in the memories of those who once were young and had the honour of visiting such a place. It was not all a success though, and ever since the pier was built, Rhyl seemed to have something of a knack for hard times. The same year the Sun Centre opened, a monorail was constructed in the town, taking riders 600 feet along the promenade. It was opened by TV personality Terry Wogan, and appears like a real marvel of a machine. But it came off its railings twice, each resulting in emergency services being called to rescue the riders, and soon its private owners could not borrow enough to keep it running, and it was demolished only 2 years after opening in 1982. That was not all either. The Floral Hall had been sold to new owners, now rebranded as the Butterfly Jungle, but it quickly became neglected due to high running costs, its run-down appearance now attracting the attention of local vandals, who smashed its once beautiful windows. Furthermore, the model village had closed in 1975 after only running for 5 years, becoming lost seemingly overnight. In fact, Rhyl's seeming ability to bring something glorious into existence, only for it to close shortly afterwards, did not escape the public's attention. After all, it's a strange thing when something is there. It bustles with life, and then it seems to vanish like a magician's prop, like a briefly beautiful dream, fading quickly away in the morning light. This eeriness of vanishing attractions even led to a piece of local folklore, an urban legend surrounding the Queen's Market and the earlier collapse of its glass dome back in 1907. According to some, there was a long-forgotten tunnel of love ride hidden in the market, with canal boats and tunnels taking riders on a journey of moving scenes, sights, and sounds. It was called Little Venice, and according to some, it was sealed away when the glass dome collapsed, leaving it frozen in time somewhere in the market, unloved and unremembered, hiding away in the darkness. Some claim the ride never existed. Others say it was merely a model or a toy for some long-forgotten exhibition. And others remain convinced that this ride exists, laying dormant below the streets of the town, like a shadow of better days, waiting to be found. The decline of Rhyl as a seaside resort is rather strange, different from that seen in other places, where foreign travel and changing tastes acted like some kind of slow, creeping darkness eating away at the towns. In Rhyl, the Sun Centre's huge success and the continued development into the 1990s initially bucked the trend, keeping it afloat with new experiences like the Pepsi-Cola coaster opening in 1991, and the Seaquarium the following year. But as the 90s grew older, and the new millennium began to dawn in the not-too-distant future, Rhyl's popularity declined with a worrying and dramatic pace. The butterfly jungle closed for good in the early 90s, having fallen even further into neglect and decay, and by the middle of the decade, Ocean Beach, despite new investments, was seen as lacking when compared to the complex and striking developments seen in larger parks. Rhyl, it seemed, had little to offer this new breed of holidaymaker who felt the world was at their fingertips, and the west end of the town, including the seafront, was described in the year 2000 as the most deprived area in the whole of Wales. As footfall dropped off, employment opportunities began also to dry up, leading to a lethargy growing more and more palpable in the town, where investment was difficult to sustain when the people were simply not there. Ocean Beach struggled on, but with visitor numbers declining with each passing season, it grew tired and quiet, its only real media presence being an accident occurring in 2005. The first to happen in the park for 40 years, leading to 5 people being injured. Finally, it was decided that the costs of keeping the park running were too much, and the decision was made in 2007 for Ocean Beach to be closed down. This archive footage was taken on the final day that the park opened in September of that year, before the very next month the entire park was demolished. This candy floss scented, sunny place, to where we ran to with excitement twinkling in our eyes, was no more. To see footage of its destruction is to witness an outrageous and appalling mistake, one that Rhyl would never recover from. Look closely upon it, and you will sense a sadness that the tongue cannot name, a shadow which causes the mind to rage, then sink into a silent grief. Those sweet and silly things of sea and sun, those little moments of laughter we had there, they now lie buried in rubble and regret. The loss of Ocean Beach, and the subsequent redevelopment of the site into a retail park, did nothing to help the fortunes of Rhyl. To see the site today almost seems like a mockery. How on earth could we allow this to happen? In fact, many in the town pointed to the closure of Ocean Beach as a central turning point in the decline of the resort, something its big brothers like Blackpool were able to avoid for the time being, their amusement parks investing each year and bringing in the crowds despite the growing cracks in the tourism trade. In the years following the death of its amusement park, Rhyl struggled in ways that its original pioneers could never have imagined. The Sky Tower, a ride opening in 1989 and offering scenic views around the North Wales coast, closed at the end of the 2010 season, and not long after this, high street shops like Marks and Spencer's and others moved to a new shopping park at nearby Prestatyn, thereby leaving the town altogether, the knock-on effect being those once grand arcades, like the famous Queen's Market, fell into a state of economic uncertainty. By 2013, Clwyd Leisure, a non-profit trust which ran the Sun Centre as well as other attractions in Prestatyn, had its funding withdrawn by Denbighshire Council, a move that led to the trust going swiftly into liquidation the following year. As it transpired, the Sun Centre had been running into trouble as early as the mid-1990s, closing at 6 p.m. instead of the original time of 11 p.m, due to a lack of visitors blamed on new pools with slides opening in towns around the country, making the Sun Centre less unique. It grew old too, the original building only designed to have a 20-year life, but still running 34 years later, leading to complaints about cleanliness, run-down facilities, and poor customer service. And so, the Sun Centre closed, laying empty for 2 years, until finally, just like Ocean Beach, it too was demolished. I think this is all very important, something we should force ourselves to look at and resist the urge to turn away. What is it that we want, really? Rhyl historian Glenn Mitchell described the Sun Centre as warm, sunny, full of life and fun. What more, truly, could we desire? Why do we turn away from these places, casting them aside like a child with a new toy, only to later mourn them when they inevitably close? If we are serious about addressing the decline in resorts like Rhyl, we need to ask ourselves these questions. For these places are delicate and easily lost, and their stories are ours. The smiles on our children's faces, the days spent in the company of friends, the memories wrapped around us like a comforting robe of respite against the passing of the years. When the Sun Centre closed, Rhyl was standing at a crossroads, with many regeneration schemes spoken of, like some kind of saviour that was due to arrive at any moment. What was to become of the place? And what, if anything, could be done to turn it all around, once and for all? In 2013, just before the Sun Centre closed its doors for good, the Pontarthraig, or Dragon Bridge, was built so that one could walk across the estuary of the River Clwyd and into the rich natural landscape of Cymnal Bay nearby. It was one part of a large, multifaceted scheme of regeneration plans for Rhyl, and was swiftly followed by plans to rebuild the west end of the promenade and many of its buildings, and a number of large projects for the coming decade slowly started to come into fruition. It was going to take some time, but Rhyl seemed determined to make it happen. As part of this scheme, the Sun Centre site was gradually transformed into the 1891 theatre and pavilion, opening in 2017 with its name a nod to the first pavilion to be built in the town, opening in 1891. Shortly after this, a Premier Inn hotel opened in the town, and plans were ongoing for the construction of a large travel lodge right next to the seafront. For many, though, the most exciting of these new developments was the construction of a brand new water park for Rhyl, costing £15 million and featuring slides, adventure tag, a cafe and play areas. It opened in 2019 and its name, SC2, or Sun Centre 2, firmly placed it as a modern replacement for the original centre that brought so much joy to the holidaymakers of Rhyl. And this was not the only throwback to the past. Next to the travel lodge, a new pub and restaurant was built, a place with a stylish modern design and a name, Rhyl, the Sun Verge, harkening back to the posters of sunny Rhyl, and the uncertainty about how the town got its name. These developments, as well as a long-running reconstruction of parts of the promenade and children's fairground area, are very interesting, and they could actually tell us something about the nature of these resorts and the keys to their decline and revival. For despite these grand designs and their resulting success stories, not everything has gone to plan with these revival efforts. In 2023, a proposed blimp-like ride called Skyflyer, taking riders high above the coastline and developed by the renowned Welsh company Zipworld, was cancelled after various problems, including the balloon becoming torn by high winds, making it unfeasible to continue with. Furthermore, that same year, the brand new Sun Centre was damaged by a storm and required extensive repairs to the roof, resulting in it not opening at all during the 2024 season. Also, when the old Queen's Market was finally demolished to make way for a new version of it, it was constantly delayed and cost over £12 million to construct, but is finally shaping up to bring a new splash of colour to the old High Street. And yet, as these efforts come and go, something interesting can be seen around Marine Lake. The miniature railway, opening in 1911, is the only ride still there from the original amusement park, and it's still running today. It's popular too, just as popular as it ever was, in fact, often regarded as one of the best attractions in the resort. And just nearby, over that impressive Pontefract Bridge, caravan holiday parks are bustling with visitors, taking in the simple pleasures of the sand and sea at Kimnel Bay. The old attractions then, like the pier and the amusement park, the Sun Centre, the miniature train, they never were some dusty relic of holidays past. They were the very things we fell in love with, the simple things that we still love today. And really, they should never have been removed in the first place. Modern constructions seem to have little in the way of middle ground. They are either a massive success or an instant failure. Chasing trends can only get one so far. Visit today, and you will see people behaving in much the same way they always did. No need for manufactured extravagance. In the sound and movement of seabirds, dreams of liberation may be heard. In the eyes of the young is a twinkling of excitement, in the old a shadow of regret. In many ways then, Rhyl once again stands at a crossroads. It is very possible that soon enough the tables will turn just like the changing tide, and the cheap package holiday shall be the one facing decline and closure. It's not too far-fetched. Prices are skyrocketing, already out of the range of many families, and the world is once more changing, very different from when such holidays first arrived. And today, as the theme park giants in larger resorts grow uneasy, with high prices and uninspired developments turning customers away? Will we seek instead something simpler, more tangible, less prone to vanish when the fashions change? Perhaps one day we shall flock back to places like Rhyl, and look over the car parks which once held such glorious holiday worlds, sensing in the wind some dim rustle of old laughter. And we will wonder how we ever allowed it to happen, and promise ourselves that it shall never happen again.